Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you all here today. Dr. Salman Abu Sitta certainly needs no introduction, especially not among this esteemed audience. However, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be able to welcome here today to screen and discuss the remarkable talk he was recently invited to present at the University of Edinburgh, titled A Palestinian Address to Lord Balfour. In a moment, Dr. Salman will clarify the circumstances of his presentation, but I would like to draw your attention to is how this provocative, original, and exigent event is only the latest in a lifetime of productive, original, and exigent research, writing, and activism. Dr. Salman, always with sharp wit, good humor, unwavering determination, and undeniable scholarship, lays bare for all to see the terrible injustice of what the land of Palestine and its original people, the Palestinians, have had to face as a result of British and Zionist military occupation enduring for 105 years and counting. Dr. Salman, born in 1937, is an eyewitness to that history. His work, from his numerous books and articles, to his poignant and revealing memoir, Mapping My Return, to his magnum opus, Atlas of Palestine, 1917 to 1966, to the Palestine Land Society he is founder and president of, chronicles and documents this history, so that there can never be any denial of the facts. Bearing witness to the intolerable, and then doing the hard work to pass that history down to the next generation becomes a preparation for return. A right of return that will never be relinquished by any Palestinian, not least of all Dr. Salman, nor by any of us who support the Palestinian cause for justice and restitution. 1917 is the year of the noxious Balfour Declaration, which Dr. Salman's talk will redress. It is the year the takeover of Palestinian land began. In his Atlas of Palestine, 1917 to 1966, Dr. Salman resists this takeover by demonstrating in meticulous detail and with rigorous evidence how that occupation of land necessitated an attempted genocide of a people, what the historian Ilan Pape has called an ethnic cleansing. Maps tell stories and preserve memories, but also they plot a way back, a return from point B back to point A. It is this that I discern in Dr. Salman's astonishing maps. Without a doubt, it provides evidence of the centuries-long existence and then attempted decimation of the Palestinian people through the occupation by the British, followed by the Zionists. Given the many decades of denial of the Palestinians' very existence, the maps provide indispensable and irrefutable historical documentation. But what Dr. Salman's maps also chart is a way back for Palestinians. Thanks to Dr. Salman, the map of return to all the stolen towns or demolished villages exists. How it will be utilized is up to current and future generations of Palestinians and their worldwide supporters. About these supporters of Palestinians, a word must be said. We're living in bewildering times in the Gulf region. Palestinians are no strangers to betrayal, but I imagine the pain caused by Arab betrayal has been the worst for Palestinians to endure. And it continues apace. Kuwait has been responsible for its own versions of betrayal post-1990. But today, it gives me satisfaction to say that regionally, in the Gulf, Kuwait remains steadfast in its support of the right of Palestine to exist and the right of Palestinians to return to their homeland, and in its rejection of any normalization with Israel under current conditions. I hope this country continues to resist regional pressures so that it remains on the right side of history. Because, as Dr. Salman states at the start and end of his talk, only criminals or the guilty are afraid of truth. Those on the side of justice have nothing to fear, not today and not hundreds of years hence, when the story of Palestine, along with the stories of the native peoples of the Americas and Australia and the once enslaved peoples of Africa, will be relayed with the full benefit of hindsight. In this future retelling, some will not be represented in a very flattering light, to say the least. So without further delay, let's turn to Dr. Salman, I think for a brief introduction or a few words to his talk ahead of its screening. And followed by the screening, Dr. Salman and I will have a little conversation and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة مي على التقديم. شكرا جزيلا. شكرا لكم جميعا على الحضور. شكرا الأخت العزيزة لول والملا على استضافتنا في الجمعية. شكرا الأخ عبد العزيز وجمعية كويتيون من أجل القدس التي أعلنت الدعوة اليوم. شكرا لكم جميعا على الحضور. هذه مناسبة يجب أن نعي بعض جوانبها بشكل يهمنا لأنها أثرت على تاريخنا وحياتنا لمدة 100 عام أو بالضبط 105 أعوام حتى الآن. تعلمون طبعا أنه وعد بلفور مشؤوم هو الذي أدى بنا إلى 100 عام من الكوارث والتدمير للشعب الفلسطيني والشعوب العربية والتي اكتوت بنار الحروب الناتجة منها. فلذلك وعد بلفور هو يعتبر نذير بالشؤم الذي أتى للأمة العربية بكامل وضعها، بما في ذلك أنها عندما خرجت من الحرب العالمية الأولى كانت تأمل أن تأتي إلى حالة من الحرية والاستقلال وغير ذلك، فلم تجد إلا العدوان الاستعماري الغربي الذي هو مستمر إلى الآن، وأن اختلفت اليافطة عليه من استعمار إنجليزي وفرنسي إلى استعمار صهيوني. وعد بلفور هو علامة فارقة مهمة جدا ويهمنا أن نعرفها. قبل حوالي 3 شهور جاتني دعوة من 6 كليات من جامعة ديسمبر للحديث عن بلفور. بلفور في جامعة ديسمبر له ميزة لأنه هو كان رئيس الجامعة لمدة 40 عاما، ومعظم قراراته السياسية اتخذت وكان هو رئيس الجامعة. وهو أيضا اسكتلندي، يعني بلده قريبة من ديسمبر، زرناها طبعا عدة مرات، ولذلك تقبلت هذه الدعوة بسرور كبير جدا، ويشكروا الحقيقة أنهم دعوني. أيضا جاءت الدعوة في نفس الوقت مع مؤسسة اسمها CBRL اللي هي Council for British Research in the Levant، ومقرها القدس وعمان، وهي مجموعة من المؤسسات البريطانية البحثية التي تبحث في تاريخ فلسطين، ولها وجود في فلسطين والأردن من حوالي يمكن كمان 70-80 سنة. فجاءت الدعوة هذه من كلاهما، رحبنا بها وأعلنت الدعوة، وجاء رد الفعل للناس إنه في حاجة اسمها إيفنت برايت اللي تعلن فيها الدعوات. فأجت الدعوات كاملة، أغلقت القاعة بالكامل، كانت بالكامل. انتبهوا الصهاينة لذلك وكتبوا مقال في جريدتهم الصهيونية اسمه جويش كرونيكل في 20 أكتوبر الماضي، يقولون إنه هذا ضد اليهود وضد السامية، وطلبوا من الجامعة إلغاء المحاضرة. صارت الماكينة، أنا بس بدي أقول هو مش موضوعنا اليوم، بس بوريكم كيف الماكينة الصهيونية اشتغلت وعشرات الرسائل جت للجامعة وجت للدوائر المختلفة، وجت أيضا للممولين الجامعة، وجت كمان للبريتش أكاديمي اللي هي بتوزع الميزانيات للجامعات، وجت أيضا لمجلس اللوردات البريطاني الذي هو يعني مسؤول عن البريتش أكاديمي اللي مسؤول عن هذه، وقصة طويلة عريضة. يعني احنا نعرف طبعا الماكينة الصهيونية، بس انها بهذا الشكل السريع بضغطة زر كلهم. الجامعة طبعا خافت، خصوصا انه ميزانيتها تنقص اذا كان البريتش أكاديمي او مجلس اللوردات يلغي ميزانيتها او يقلل منها، فعملوا فحص طويل. المهم يشكروا انه الكليات الست اللي من الجامعة اصروا على الدعوة، قالوا نعرف أعماله من 30-40 سنة ونحن مصرين، والجامعة هي مكان للعلم ومكان للكذا، ومن له رغبة يجي يسأل، لكن احنا لا نمنع ذلك، ويشكروا. فمشت المحاضرة في موعدها. الآن عشان ما نكرر الكلام نقول إنه الفيلم اللي حتشوفوه الآن مختصر، هو بدايته تقديم من بروفيسور جون ديغارد اللي هو جودارد، اسمه جون جودارد، اللي هو رئيس المعهد الدراسات الإسلامية، وهو اللي كان يعني مدير الجلسة. ثم كلمة من شايرة فاتسارا اللي هي الداعية من نيابة عن الجامعة، وأيضا توفيق حداد اللي هو من CBRL اللي كان حاضر. وبعدين جون هيو جودارد قدمني، أخذنا منه فقرة صغيرة، ثم المحاضرة طبعا بالإنجليزي، ولكن فيها ترجمة عربية واضحة. فتفضل يا أخ. بعدين بعد ذلك اللي بيحب يسأل نتكلم زي ما احنا تريدون، كما تريدون، سؤال وجواب في النهاية. How do we go? We can sit there.
I don't know. You will just flip around.
Yeah.
Excuse our backs.
معلش.
Try to be like. Do you want to switch off the lights?
صوت.
Welcome to this special event in the University of Edinburgh under the title On the Centenary of the British Mandate in Palestine, a Palestinian Address to Lord Balfour. My name is Hugh Goddard, and I'm an honorary professor in the Al-Wadi Centre on George Square. It is a great pleasure to please welcome our speaker for this evening, Dr. Salman Abu-Sitta. Dr. Abu-Sitta has devoted his life to the amassing of geographical data about Palestine. What Rachel Sally in her review describes as restorative cartography. Based on the study of maps, photographs, administrative records, and memos from different periods before, during, and after the British Mandate, and using libraries in Britain, France, Germany, Turkey, Egypt, the US, the UN, and even from Israel, with the help of sympathetic Israeli friends. Dr. Abu-Sitta has produced a formidably detailed account of what happened to individual villages and settlements during the British Mandate and in the subsequent decades. And this has been published in his Atlas of Palestine, which in a couple of copies are available for consultation here. Published by Palestine Land Society in 2010. It's on the basis of this work that Yuri Adnori, an Israeli writer and peace activist with Gush Shalom, Block of Peace, who had a very interesting correspondence with Dr. Abu Sitta in Counterpunch in 2014, described him as the world's foremost expert on the Nakba. And it's very good news that the future of Dr. Abu Sitta's archive is now secure, having been offered a home, a permanent home, at the American University of Beirut. It's a great pleasure, therefore, to welcome Dr. Abu Sitta to Edinburgh to help us reflect on an aspect of our own history, and we look forward very much on the occasion of the centenary of the establishment of the British Mandate in Palestine to hearing Dr. Salman Abu Sitta's address to Bradford.
Thank you very much. So many thanks that I cannot count. Thank you very much, Professor Vidal, for the introduction and for chairing this meeting. Thank you to my friends Shara and Tawfiq, who in the last 100 days have been working very hard to arrange this event. They have been navigating rough waters, but they arrived at the destination safely, in spite of some noise here and there. Why I say that? Because truth must be told. Who is afraid of truth? Only the criminal and the guilty. So there should be no hesitation in hearing about the truth. I should also say thanks to the various departments and the University of Edinburgh who sponsored this event. They have been mentioned in your talk and in the invitation Eventbrite, so I'm not going to repeat that. But I'm going to thank people who are here today for coming. Some of you came from Edinburgh. Some took the train 4 hours to come from London. We have people here who came several hours from Europe. Others took the plane 10 hours to fly here to be with us tonight. So I thank them all for being here tonight. Now let us turn to our friend Bלפור. Lord Bלפור, Arthur James Bלפור. In honor of truth, memory and justice, I am addressing you, Lord Bלפור. Shall I call you Lord Bלפור? We will have a long journey together, so I'll call you Arthur James. From now on, I'm going to call you Arthur. Arthur, I wish you didn't die in 1930. I really want you to be alive today and be judged before everybody in the world, now during your real life and during your imagined life. If you didn't die in 1930, you would be alive today and will be judged by people during your imagined life, so that we can hear you, we can hear firsthand what they say about your deeds. But you'd be 176 years today. This is more than twice my age. I have a stake in this because the first half of your lifetime, you knew it, you lived it. So I can address you, make you accountable for what you have done. But in the second half of your imagined life, I lived through it. And I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to spread the sheet of your deeds here at the University of Edinburgh, where, as you have said, you have been the Imperial Chancellor for 40 years. This is an appropriate place to address you, Arthur. You came from this blessed land, Scotland, from among free and proud people in Scotland. You also came from a distinguished family, but you went to London to be brought up as a loyal English colonial servant. You did well. Some people say you have been a failure, others say you have been an opportunist. Nevertheless, you held many positions of power, so that makes you accountable to your deeds. It seems, Arthur, you didn't like the Jews. At least you thought they should protect England, you should protect England from their influx when they wanted to come here at the beginning of the 20th century. They were mostly Russian citizens of the Russian Empire, although they were accused of being disloyal citizens, but they were citizens of the Russian Empire. They were attacked in their ghettos and enclaves by the Cossacks. Their homes were destroyed, their property looted, their women violated, their young men were killed at random. It was a terrible human experience for the Jews. They called this pogrom. Pogrom. Remember that word, but for pogrom. Pogrom, because it would come back to haunt you by another name, in another place. Not the same events, but much more fierce, with phosphorus bombs, tanks and airplanes, not sporadic, but a doctrine of regular policy, not for a few nights or weeks, but for 74 years, and still counting. You have a lot to do this, a lot to do with this Belfort. Those poor Russian Jews wanted to escape from the pogroms, to find a safe haven in England. You refused. You refused to let them in. You passed the 1905 Aliens Act to prevent them from coming to England. But they took revenge. They immigrated to the United States instead. 100 years later, the APAC organization has been a strong lobby in the United States politics. The sons of those Russian immigrants took higher positions, from Kissinger to Blinken, and they became foreign minister, the same position like yours in England, but for the United States. But Palestine was another story. It had a strategic position, important for your imperial interests. It is the heart of the Arab world. It is needed to cut down this heart of the Arab world. In 1916, you were part of a big scheme to deceive the Arabs by telling them that they will be free from the Ottoman rule if they join you in pushing the Turks out of Arab provinces. They believed you, and they fought with you. To confirm your promise, the Allied planes dropped leaflets on the Arab territory repeating your promises. At the very same time, when these promises were made, Arthur, your man, Mark Sykes, and a French diplomat called Georges Picot were huddled in a dark room, spreading the map of the Middle East between them. They were dividing the Arab pie between them. They were arguing about where the borders of Palestine would be from the borders of Syria and Lebanon. You were dividing the Arab pie. You, the British and French, were fighting over war spoils on the dead body of the Arab nation. At the same time, you were driven by Zionist ambitions who wanted to extract more land and more water in Palestine, provided there were no people in it. They would not be allowed to be there. They wanted empty Palestine. But it was not empty. It was rich and fertile. This is Palestine at the time, rich and fertile, with 1,200 towns and villages, with rich land, with history over 4,500 years. Not many people in Europe can claim that. But you, after the politician, befriended wealthy European Jews. They told you that if you gave them a foothold in Palestine, they would mobilize all the Jews in the world on British side in the First World War. You knew, of course, at least you should have known, this was a lie. For one thing, the Zionists at the time did not number more than 5,000. The new leader, Chaim Weizmann, told you the opposite. He told you that they were a world force to be reckoned with. You knew it was not true. The Jews in many countries were silent citizens of the countries of their birth and residence. You had in your government a witness to that, a British Jewish minister, Edwin Montagu. He was dead against your policies, and he believed it was bad for the Jews, as it would strip them from their nationalities in other countries. He called Zionism a mischievous political creed. That's what he said. But you were clever. You wanted to kill two birds with one stone. You wanted to get rid of the Jews and deny them entry to England. At the same time, you wanted to turn them into a useful force for your imperial interest to dismember the Arab nation. Your prime goal at the time was the Suez Canal. As a scheming politician, Arthur, you arrived at an agreement with wealthy European Jews to that effect and kept it hidden in your drawer until the right time came. In preparation for this day, a Zionist British Jew, a cabinet minister, Herbert someone, submitted a memorandum in 1915 entitled The Future of Palestine. It was a plan to colonize Palestine. In the same year, British threat to Ottoman-ruled Palestine became ominous. They planned to attack Palestine from their base in Egypt. My father was against the British and on the side of the Ottomans, on the basis that they were Muslim rulers for Muslim lands. He, that's my father, accompanied his uncle Suleiman, who was the leader of 1,500 horsemen from Beersheba to fight the British garrison at the Suez Canal. My father saw his uncle in battle, galloping in his horse, waving his sword, before he was gunned down by machine guns of the British. The right time for you to reveal your secret agreement with the Jews took a little longer than you expected. Why? Because in January 1917, British forces entered Palestine from their base in Egypt. The British had a hard time occupying Palestine. They were defeated at the gates of Gaza twice. Well, obviously, Gaza has a history of resistance. The British lost thousands killed and more wounded soldiers from their soldiers came from various parts of the British Empire. It took them 6 months, the British, to lick their wounds and regroup. A new commander of the British forces was appointed. His name was General Allenby. To recover from their defeat in Gaza, the British devised a new attack plan to pretend they attacked Gaza for the third time, but actually they wanted to attack Beersheba in the east instead of that. My family knew this. The British forces started from my land. This is the First World War map, and it says we left from Switzerland, right? And then they proceeded to Beersheba from the east. And this ruse, this new attack, succeeded. The British marched all right along this red line and attacked Beersheba unexpectedly from the east. Why am I telling you this, Bלפור? Because it shows how and when you made your declaration. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, 31st of October 1917, the British forces took Beersheba. That was the first British victory in the First World War. They had defeats in Gaza, as I said, twice. They had defeats in Quds in Iraq, and they had defeats in Gallipoli in Turkey. So the next morning, which is 1st of November, LMB sent a telegram to London saying, Beersheba is in our hands. Jerusalem will be your Christmas present. On the 2nd day of November, you, Arthur, received LMB telegram and you pulled out of your drawer a piece of paper you already signed with the Jews and made your declaration, Bלfور declaration. Before that, you could not do that. Now, I don't need to recite for you the Bלfور declaration, it's very clear. It was, of course, 105 years ago, today, this week. Your declaration was the promise of those who did not own to those who have no title, giving away the property of the absent lawful owner. In today's world, what you have done will take you to jail because you issued a false promissory note. But the fraud of giving a title deed of a stolen property to foreigners was covered by the casual reference to the owners, the owners. The national majority of Palestine, 95% of the population. You did not mention them by name. You called them, you alluded to them, the others. The non-Jews. We were the non-Jews, 95%. There's no point in being picky about the details of the 67-word infamous document, such as using the word home for Jews, when you actually meant the state, such as saying that to be in Palestine, where you intended to be of all Palestine. But however treacherous this document, you are not ashamed of it. You justified it by plainly saying this. For in Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes, he did not say the rights, the wishes of the present population of the country. Who were this population? Who were this population? You described them, you described us as holy barbers, undeveloped, and unorganized black tribes. This is what you describe us, Arthur. Well, again, today this is a recent mark. We could take it to court. But as he promised, General LMB took Jerusalem 21 months after your declaration. The news of LMB taking Jerusalem was hailed in the newspaper. The headline says, Jerusalem is rescued by the British after 673 years of Muslim rule. Rescued. The newspaper said, great rejoicing in the Christian world. And below that, Jews everywhere see the restoration of Palestine. The irony is, the word restoration is really against the Jews because it was a code word in the 19th century that to get rid of the Jews by restoring them to Palestine. So it was not a compliment. The newspaper figure of 607 years of Muslim rule is obviously wrong. It is 1300 years. Yet the figure of 637 is relevant. It is the year when Umar ibn Khattab entered Jerusalem, he offered the population of Jerusalem the Umayyad covenant to assure them of peace and brotherhood. Unlike you, Umar did not come to destroy the people or replace them. He came to make them his brothers. He wanted to give credence to your declaration, and also the Jews wanted more formal recognition of your declaration. So you passed your declaration to the League of Nations, as you said, in July 1922. This year is its centenary. What is this League of Nations which adopted that and endorsed it? It was only you. It was only you and a handful of other colonial countries in Europe. The rest of the world was absent in the League of Nations. But the League had lofty ideas to justify its colonization. Article 22 of the League of Nations Charter proclaimed that it had a duty under sacred trust of civilization to bring freedom and independence to the free Arab provinces. Sacred trust of civilization. I ask you, Arthur, is giving away Palestine to foreigners a sacred trust of civilization? Do you have an answer to that? Could you, if you are alive? But does this map tell you that it is an empty land to give away? Does this map tell you that Palestine is an empty land? Or the brown color is Arab, and the blue is the Jews who were there at the time? But in 1920, 30 years after your declaration, you entrusted the administration of Palestine to a Zionist Jew by the name of Herbert Samuel, the same person who a few years back presented a paper to colonize Palestine. His mission was to implement the Zionist policy of taking over Palestine under the protection of your declaration. By this time you were 75, so you must be frail by this time. But you left the helm to a younger English colonial officer. He was a thoroughbred imperialist, a racist of the first order. His name was Winston Churchill. He followed your footsteps. When the House of Lords rejected your declaration by two-thirds majority, Churchill, the orator, a very good orator, gave a resounding speech reminding the members that your declaration is good for British imperial interests. And he won. Like you, Churchill found Zionism and Jews useful for the purpose. He, like you, derided the Arabs and scoffed at the British promises for their liberation and independence. But for Palestinians, Churchill had a special words for them. He dismissed their historical bond of their country altogether. Dripping with racism, Churchill said of the Palestinian right and their country this: I don't agree that the dog in the manger has the final right to the manger, even though he may have lain there for a very long time. I don't admit that right to the dog. That's what they said about the Palestinian right in their country. We were like a dog in a manger. He doesn't own the manger. But that's the kind of man who fought your policy. His protege, Herbert Samuel, ran into difficulty in the first year of administration in Palestine. I read through the correspondence between Churchill and Samuel in the British archives. Reading that, it's astounding. Palestinians are protesting against the Bolsheviks, the Russian Jews, landing in Jaffa. Arabs and Jews are killed and wounded. Someone sent a telegram to Churchill. Churchill replied, tell them we are sending a commission of inquiry. Someone said again, They want parliamentary representation in their country. Don't mention the word representation. They are still the majority, came the reply from Churchill. And naturally, the Palestinians revolted against that. Churchill arrived in Palestine in the spring of 1921 to help someone. He met an assembly of Palestinian dignitaries in Jerusalem, pacifying them, assuring them of Britain's honorable intentions. My father was one of them. My father told me that Churchill told him, assured him personally, that Britain respected and affirmed their rights in the Shiva district, their land and traditional customs. Churchill told him, asked him, to resort to peace and don't raise a rebellion against the British. His statement, Churchill's statement to my father, was confirmed by an official document from the government, British government. This document was brought before an Israeli court many years later, in 2010. A Palestinian citizen of Israel in Beersheba, his name is Nouri al-Okbi, protesting Israel's confiscation of his land in Beersheba, presented this document. The Israeli court dismissed it on the ground that Beersheba was empty of land, nobody lived there. Did you have that? But with support from Churchill, someone resumed his mission. In his 5 years of tenure, from 1920 to 1925, he promulgated about 100 laws, essentially founding Israel, waiting to be announced 28 years later. Someone created separate Jewish institutions for education, for banking, for power generation, for public works, and particularly a Jewish legislative council and an embryonic Jewish army, the Haganah. The Palestinians, the majority, 97%, were denied the right to do any of these things. In 1925, you, Arthur, entered Palestine for the first time. You attended the inauguration of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, wearing the University of Edinburgh robes. While you were honored by grateful Jews, you did not hear the shouts and curses of Palestinians just outside, denouncing you in Jerusalem and as far as away as Damascus. Nor did it occur to you that the word Hebrew, which is a language word, was a hidden word for Israel. In fulfillment of your declaration, Palestine doors were now open to the influx of European Jewish settlers. In August 1929, the Russian settlers, the Bolsheviks, attempted to take over the Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. This ignited the great Palestinian rebellion, which started 3 years. After, you must have heard about the Burak uprising in your final days. You must have heard about the British Commission, yet another commission, sent to investigate. In March 1930, you left our world. I wish you had remained alive to see what happened next, and the suffering and all the death and destruction which is caused by you. But I shall tell you what happened after that. That's why I come here today to haunt you, to bring your deeds to the notice of the whole world. By 1930, the number of Jewish European settlers, the Bolsheviks, climbed to 30% of the population of the country. Naturally, the Palestinian population, rose against the threat to their existence of the country. The rebellion was met with utmost British brutality. Utmost brutality. The RAF bombed villages indiscriminately. People saw airplanes dropping bombs on them for the first time in history. British forces attacked the villages. destroyed their supplies, and held the men captive in cages for 2 days on end without food and water. The art of British torture was refined. They forced villagers to walk barefoot on the thorns of sapar tree. Collective punishment was applied widely. Political parties were dissolved. Political parties were dissolved and the leaders were executed, imprisoned, or deported. The British executed the 80-year-old man, leader of the revolt, Sheikh Farhan Saadi. He was 80 years old and he was hanged while fasting in Ramadan on 22nd of November 1937. That's the date of my birth. Meanwhile, the British forces trained the Jewish militia, created elite units known as SNS, Special Night Squads, gave them uniforms, shared intelligence with them. The British helped create the Haganah, the future army of Israel. The British brutality was copied and greatly refined by Israel today. But the Palestinians resisted as much as they could. They have tiny means. In each village, a dozen or 2 young people joined the fighters in the uprising. I know this personally. My brother, Abdullah, led the revolt in Beersheba district. With his comrades, they kicked the British out of the district for 1 year, and they set up a national government from 1938 to 1939. But what could they do against the might of the British Empire? The minimum estimate of Palestinian casualties was 5,000 killed, 15,000 wounded, and probably 50,000 or more were jailed. This is about 50% of all other population in the place where the revolt was. 50%. They were either wounded or jailed by the British. That's why I always say, and will continue to say, 1939 is the British inflicted Nakba on Palestine. 6 years later, in 1945, your country emerged from the Second World War victorious, but very much exhausted. And those Jewish settlers you brought to my country decided they don't need you anymore. They wanted to get rid of you. They wanted to take over Palestine for themselves. They carried out a series of terrorist acts against you, against your people and your British forces. You, their erstwhile benefactor. They hanged your soldiers in trees. They blew up your buildings and they kidnapped your judges. But you tolerated them. So much, very unlike what you have done to us. You saw them invading Palestine in April 1914. You did nothing. The Central Army you helped build started the invasion of Palestine while the British were watching. Here, I give you a slide many people have not seen before. No, next one. And this is a map. I hope some people saw this. This is a map of Palestine in 1948. All the red areas you see there are Palestinian lands occupied by the Haganah before Israel was declared, before the British left, before any Arab regular soldier came to Palestine. All the blue dots are villages which have been depopulated, and many of them had massacres. In the squares, the names of the brigade which did that. They have 120,000 soldiers in 9 brigades. They carried out 31 military operations, and they invaded Palestine mostly during and under the British rule, when Palestine was under the British rule. Half of the refugees of Palestinians were expelled while the British were watching.